before you watch this video, I encourage you to either go read or listen to my reading of W.E.B. Du Bois' speech in China at Beijing University in 1959. I am only using Du Bois in this series because this speech is an important speech in terms of relations between peoples of African and Asian descent. Going back to this classification of the Mongoloids and the Negroids. See, the thing is, we know now that China, as of today, has been in Africa, and there's also a few outliers like Chinese people kicking Africans out of stores in their country, and in turn Nigeria suspending the Chinese and kicking them out. So obviously there is some back and forth between the groups. Still, I'm going to read an excerpt because I always do this when I read the speeches from W.E.B. Du Bois. And it goes as follows. Come to China, Africa, and look around. Invite Africa to come, China, and see what you can teach by just pointing. Yonder old woman is working on the street, but she is happy. She has no fear. Her children are in school, and a good school. If she is ill, there's a hospital where she is cared for free of charge. She has a vacation with pay each year. She can die and be buried without taxing her family to make some undertaker rich. Is it possible, because I'm not on this psychic stuff, that W.E.B. Du Bois was on to something and could see into the future that clearly China was going to be on the forefront of leading revolutions, of having their own economies and things like that? Because he himself was a black man who is a black American living in Africa, and he could probably see things that disillusioned him to the point where he thought that we as black people needed to get ourselves together. And I'll go into later how he seems like he was disillusioned with his own ideal of what's called the talented 10th. We won't go into that here. See, when I read that excerpt, I see what he's saying as the two can come together and learn from each other. Because China has been investing in Africa in ways that we knew or we didn't know was going to happen. But W.E.B. Du Bois seems to be giving this synopsis into this. If you guys know, there's a YouTuber, and just about everybody knows about him, even if you don't listen to his stuff, called Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary Vay. Couple of years ago, because I'm subscribed, Gary Vay sat in a room and said, in the future, you'd better invest in Africa and Asia, because that's where the next, basically, titans are. You could hear a pin drop. That room got so quiet. And based on this speech, which I'm not saying Gary read, I'm not even saying Gary Vaynerchuk knows anything about W.E.B. Du Bois. I just didn't include an image of him because Gary's so protected. I don't want his team or anybody to come after me for using a photo of him. And I didn't go and get one either from Alamir or anything. Gary Vaynerchuk, in at least 2 videos that I watched, said these are the 2 nations that are on the rise, or the 2 continents. That is Asia and that is Africa. And both times the room, in my opinion, got quiet. He gave an analysis and I don't remember what he said. But this speech lends to the fact that there were indeed someone like W.E.B. Du Bois who had an ideal of the future and said these two need to come together. But let's keep it frank. The Chinese are not known, some, not all are this way, for their track record with black people. And this is mostly a United States thing. And nor are our hands clean with stuff like the Kung flu, when blacks were attacking Asians unprovoked on the streets, which I find unfortunate. They're hardly the only race that's doing it, but it's disheartening to have my race attack Chinese people or any Asians who aren't even Chinese, telling them to go back to China and all this type of stuff. Stuff comes in flux. When in all actuality, Dubois saw a bridging of the gap between the two cultures. Again, I won't make that assumption, but I feel like Dubois said something in 1959 that may become a reality by 2059, is that those two continents, because of their current growth, will be on the rise. And my prediction, this is more of a prediction to me, is that once those two continents do come together and start to create more wealth and better quality of life, it's not going to be easy to stop them. Whatever happened in the 20th century and back, those days are gone. We're moving forward. And forward is going to have some nasty twists and turns, like I said, with black people being kicked out of Chinese stores in China or in establishments, and with the Nigerians telling the Chinese, well, since you're disrespectful, get out. There's going to be some racial tension along the way, and these history and this this social stratification and these racial categories will still play a role, but I think to a lesser extent. All right, tell me what y'all think. Was Gary Vaynerchuk correct? Will China and Africa come together and continue to unite, or at least people of Asian and African descent? All right, thanks for listening. Bye.